Today we're doing something not so ordinary. Recently, Aditha came up with the idea to do some kind of hide-and-seek mode in Smite, and I kinda expanded on that idea. Some of you may know Dead by Daylight, a game where a few players are getting chased by a hunter, so to speak, and that hunter has to kill them all in various cruel ways. And I figured, why not try to implement that into Smite? Now, obviously, we don't have the same mechanics as that game, so it's not gonna be the same by any standards, but I tried to, make the best out of it and work with what we got in Smite to make it a somewhat interesting mode and a little more than a standard, hide-and-seek mode. So we spent a few hours today in testing various different combinations of items and so on, and tried to come up with a somewhat fair mode for both the prey and the hunters. And I think at this point we've kind of reached a place in between where it's fair for the hunter, but fair for the prey as well. And that's what we're going to talk about and what we're going to go into here, and look at how these comps work and what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. So the hunter, which we tried out so far, is Loki. Loki is relatively easy to have here because he has got some kind of movement speed increase, he's got some kind of steroid, and he also has some, obstruction with his decoy that is not too game-changing. So on Loki, we're starting on level 2 with every character, and on Loki, you're just allowed to level the 1 and the 2. You're not allowed to level the aim strike because that would be ridiculous amounts of damage. You're not allowed to level the ult because it would give you too much mobility and all that stuff. So you're just using the 1 and 2. Additionally, similar to Dead by Daylight, where you have to uncloak before you can attack an enemy, Loki is not allowed to attack enemies out of stealth. He has to wait until the stealth runs out before attacking an enemy, and he can make use of the steroid that he gets afterwards, but he's not allowed to directly attack out of stealth, so the enemy at least gets a little moment to avoid his attack afterwards. With his 2, he can place it wherever he wants to. He can use it to block, he can use it to completely just zone off an area, and that's basically all he has as tools to hunt down the enemies. His items are as follows: Warrior Tabi, Ritual Dagger for some extra movement speed on top of that, Hydra's Lament, and Stone of Gaia. This will give him the option to chase down the hunters while also allowing them to not die immediately to his attacks, but still giving him some extra damage, especially between the Hydra's burst and the extra damage on his 1 if he lands it properly. It's a decent amount of damage that he can deal while not insta-gimping anyone. Stone of Gaia is there just to give him more MP5 mostly and allow him to take the poke from the enemies who are allowed to CC him with certain tools, not to die from that in the end. So between Hydra's Lament and Stone of Gaia, you will rarely run out of mana, which is important for the hunter in order to be able to play effectively, so to speak. So these are the hunter's tool. Now what about the prey? The prey gets Traveler's Shoes or Talaria. This will allow them to get away from the hunter relatively fast if he's not attacking them yet. So that's going to be very important for the hunter to do. And at the same time, allows the hunter to be able to follow up once he has attacked them, because he still gets the basic attack, movement penalty and stuff like that. They get 1 Wrath for the whole team, so you really have to make sure to put that on the right person. And they get 1 ward each, which will have to last for the whole game. Due to the HP 5 of Talarias, you have a decent way to heal up when you get away from the danger zone. So you always have to consider if you want to position yourself more safely and hide out a little bit, or if you want to help out your teammates with your abilities more. The hunted or prey, which are currently best from what we figured so far in terms of fairness, are Artemis, who is allowed to level only her traps, Freya, who's only allowed to level her banish, Terra, who's only allowed to level her 2, Skadi, who's only allowed to level her ice, and Anhur, who's only allowed to level his pillar. Certain hard CC tools make it basically impossible to kill the enemy properly, and certain other tools, like for example Ymir's wall, is just too strong in comparison to other abilities. The map that is used, or which we have used so far, is Siege. I could imagine the Douse map working as well, though it's a fair bit smaller, and maybe even other maps depending on if you want to give the characters some extra items. The time limit for the game is 10 minutes. We tried around a little bit. It maybe 15 is better as well. Like, so far we haven't been able to finish a game within the time limit unless we had some extra advantages. And you will level up over time due to the passive XP in the mode, which especially helps the hunter to get the kills later on, as his 1 deals a lot more damage. If the hunted make it past 10 minutes, then they have survived and they've won the round as such. Often you will have 1 survivor at least, so basically if you want to compare yourself to others, just see how many survivors you have at the end of 10 minutes. You're always allowed to help your team with CC, but you're not allowed to use basic attacks on the Hunter. The Hunter is the only one who is allowed to attack, just to give him a chance to win the game mode at all. As for hiding spots, towers and phoenixes are off zone, and so is the Titan area. So you have to be somewhere on the map where it's accessible for you without being anywhere close to a tower, or rather within the tower radius, neither yours or the enemy's really, just to keep it fair in that regard for both teams. Reason has actually made a little write-up for the mode. I will link it down below. There are some things in there that we have changed since, which I have pointed out in the video, and some things that are kind of, well, a little debatable, especially when it comes to guard picks, because some of them are really very, very strong. For example, Bacchus, who could get away with the belly flop. But overall, I think it's an interesting list where you can look into it a little deeper and figure out some comps that maybe work for you that I haven't pointed out here. Though I have to say that even with the 5 that I named, it's already really fun. So feel free to try that mode out. I will be playing it a few times on stream and maybe upload it to YouTube once a while. I will try and do a write-up of the rules myself later on as well. Thank you guys for watching. Hope to see you for the next one tomorrow. DukeSloth, out.